Experiment time. Many of you have asked me to experiment on what happens when you underferment dough. Will it ruin your bread or unlock unexpected deliciousness? Let's dive into the dough and find out. Hi, I'm Sune, and I'm not just a food enthusiast, I'm a full-blown food geek. I'm here to share my passion and knowledge with you. Fermentation is crucial for bread as it affects everything: rise, flavor, crust, and crumb structure. But what if we deliberately underferment our dough? Can shorter fermentation times produce better results? Or will it lead to disaster? Well, typically we'd expect underfermented dough to show moderate to high oven spring, irregular crumb structure, and potentially less flavor development compared to properly fermented dough. For this experiment, I prepared 4 identical doughs using my standard experiment formula. It consists of 80% bread flour, 20% whole grain rye flour, 20% starter, 2% salt, and 80% hydration. I prepared all the doughs without stretch and folds or any other agitation, and they were stored consistently in my proofer at 30 degrees Celsius throughout fermentation. It is worth noting that the strength and the activity of the starter play a considerable role in these results. Using a weaker starter could lead to significantly less oven spring and potentially a tight or even gummy crumb. That would make for a very different experiment and perhaps one worth doing in the future. I fermented the doughs for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and the last dough fermented until it grew by 50%. After shaping, each dough spent up to 8 hours in the fridge before baking under identical conditions. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon. You can also buy some merch, use the super thanks, or check out the links for tools and ingredients in the description. Those were the words. This is the experiment.
This is an experiment, not a recipe. My master recipe for sourdough bread is linked in the description. First, I mixed all of the doughs. After they were mixed, I placed them directly in the proofer at 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Then I took out each dough at the appropriate time. For the sake of keeping the video short, I will show all of the shaping at the same time. Right after shaping, the doughs were placed directly in the fridge, which is set to 3 degrees Celsius, about 37.5 degrees Fahrenheit. After around 8 hours in the fridge, I started baking. I used a 2-stage baking process, which means that one loaf browns while the other one is being steamed. It's a great way to save both time and energy. After they were all finished baking, they cooled down a couple hours to finish the baking. When they were cool, I cut each loaf to reveal the crumb. And let's just have a look at a few more slices to get an idea of the resulting crumb. Alright, this one, which only fermented for 2 hours, has a very wild crumb. It shows significant signs of underfermentation. The rise in this loaf is quite remarkable. This one rose for 3 hours. Already we're seeing that the crumb is relatively tame. Still some signs of underfermentation, but nothing like the first loaf. This loaf rose for 4 hours, and it's starting to look like we are in a good territory. You still see some signs of underfermentation, but they're now minimal. The last loaf rose for about 5 hours to get to 50%. This crumb looks quite lovely, not very open, but that wasn't really the point of this experiment. Alright, let me compare the smell and the taste. Smells good. A bit of tang, lots of wheat, and some rye. Tastes really good. That rye flour from Kornbymølle is my absolute favorite. Okay, so this one is also tangy, mild, and enjoyable. The taste is about the same as the first one. The third loaf also smells and tastes the same. It seems like the rise doesn't affect the taste. Well, let's try the properly fermented one. Yes, quite the same. The length of the bulk fermentation significantly affects the texture and rise, more so than the smell and the taste.
This experiment was eye-opening. While we expected moderate oven spring and somewhat irregular crumb structure with shorter fermentation times, the actual results were surprising, especially the significant oven spring seen in the least fermented dough. Interestingly, despite these structural differences, there were almost no noticeable difference in taste between any of the loaves, challenging our initial expectation about flavor development and fermentation. One hypothesis is that the extended time in the fridge played a more significant role in the flavor development than the bulk fermentation. Could cold fermentation be the secret to unlocking authentic flavor? Maybe that's a test we need to run. What do you think? Have you experimented with fermentation times in your baking? Please share your experience in the comments below. I hope you learned something today. See you next time.